Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Content Crowd. My name is Trevor Grimes, and I'm here today with a very good friend of mine who's going to be talking about something that we all find very interesting, which is cash flow and budgeting, but also creating content while you're still trying to figure it all out. I'm here with a good friend and guest of mine, Chris Brown. Chris, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do and how you talk about what you do at parties.
Yeah, my name's Chris Brown. I'm a solutions engineer for Trevada. That's a cash management platform. The way I describe what I do is I help people understand how they manage cash. I help people really to understand how they manage cash. And when I'm at parties or in any sort of like public setting, when it comes up, it's usually the example I always give is think about like Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme is a company that has locations all over the country. And believe it or not, JP Morgan Chase doesn't have a bank in every city that a Krispy Kreme exists in. So for that reason, a company like Krispy Kreme has to bank with a lot of different banks. So usually they have to have someone to log in to all those banks, download all that data, figure out how much cash they have that morning, and then go about their day, moving cash around, paying their bills, paying back loans, maybe having to go borrow money. There's a lot of different things that what's called a treasury team does, but a big part of that is just figuring out how much cash they have. And Trevada, the company I work for, they offer a platform that aggregates that data and kind of allows people to have that visibility if there's someone that, has to bank with a lot of banks for one reason or another.
That's already super interesting to me because I did not know that. The scenario you just laid out about Krispy Kreme, and yeah, they may bank with JP Morgan, but there's not a physical bank in every city that they have one. That's super interesting. That's not something I ever really thought about. I guess like when I think about money in terms of how it moves, it's just all digital in some way. And it doesn't seem like that big of a deal to move it around. But
when you're dealing with your personal bank account, you might have a few $1,000s or maybe tens of thousands or however much money you have in your bank account, obviously different for everyone. And that also applies with companies as well. You might have a really massive company that does maybe hundreds of millions of dollars a year in revenue that has tens of millions of dollars in cash at any given time. And because of that, they have to diversify where those funds are just for like liquidity reasons to make sure they have access to funds in the right geographic location. Or if anybody is familiar with SVB as a bank, there was that big failure. And banks, it is common for banks to fail, somewhat common, depending on the economic environment. And your funds could be at risk if you're a really large company like Krispy Kreme that has all your money in one bank. So for that reason, you have to diversify where your cash is. And as a result, have to aggregate that information every day to figure out what you can do with that cash. And a lot of personal accounts and like software products for people as individuals allow for a lot more fluidity with how information gets moved around. But when you start talking like corporate banking and large corporate finance teams, there's a lot more control just because there's more money at risk. It's not just a few $1,000s that we're talking about. It could be tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cash that as a CFO or the board or whatever, they want to make sure that they know exactly where that money is, how it changes hands, when it goes out the door. And so there's just a lot of control and security risk around that sort of thing.
That's super interesting. I do want to segue though into why you're here, because I think anybody that's watching may be wondering, why are we talking about cash flow and stuff like this? I'm definitely not a finance guru or a finance show. So I want to lead into why I have you here and why I asked you to be here. And just for some quick background, we've been friends since maybe I was in early college and you were still in high school, maybe. So it's been quite a while.
15 years, maybe?
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
Amazing.
And we've worked together, not at a place, but we've done freelance projects together, and we've collaborated on a lot of different projects and things like that. And what you've always been really good at is just testing and experimenting and like putting things out there. You put a quote from Hormozi in your questionnaire, and I'm going to bring that up too, because a lot of the people I work with we're all in the same camp. But I do also remember a few years ago, like going through a 4-hour work week, and you're like, just set up stuff and test it and find out interest and see what happens. And you've always been super good at that. And I think like where people get hung up on trying to test is they spend too much time in like their why in the beginning instead of just going and doing it. And you've always just went and done that. So I love to like just talk through some of the things you've done and things like that, and how you go about testing and how you create things while you're still building it, and how that has worked out for you, not in terms of being like a content creator, but being somebody who is become known as you do really well.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a lot of trial and error. Maybe it's because I hit my head on something when I was younger that gave me some sort of like bold confidence to do that sort of thing. But life's short and I feel like I've got something to say and I'm trying to figure out how to say it. And I'm trying to figure out how to just tell my story, try to talk about what I do and what I know, because I've seen the impact it has had on my life personally with my family, but also now in my career, I see the impact that the work that I do and the perspective that I have on the world, especially when it comes to money. I've just seen the impact of that. And I've seen it help in a personal situation. I've seen it help my family avoid bankruptcy. In a career and like professional perspective, I've seen it help companies avoid bankruptcy and have to figure out what to do anyways with their money. So yeah, creating content around that is tricky, I find. One, because I'm trying to learn what the best format for me to get that information out of my head is, which I've recently come to the realization that it's writing for me, but then also taking something as sensitive as is your financial situation. Everyone has a financial situation that they're dealing with, right? You're always faced with difficult financial decisions, and how you navigate those decisions, I find to be really interesting. And I really enjoy talking to people about that sort of thing. But it's tough to build that trust with someone short term in the moment to get to the point to where they're sharing with you some of their most sensitive personal information. And in the industry, there's a lot of financial products out there that people are trying to sell. There's a lot of credit products that people are trying to sell. There's a lot of slimy people out in the world in every industry, but also finance, because it's so lucrative. And it's tough to figure out how to communicate not only the knowledge that I have, but also try to tell it in a way that other people can understand and grasp, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned maybe you hit your head that gave you some sort of like
yeah, I've got a scar. You can see it.
Oh yeah, me too. When I'm next time I shave my head, I got a big scar across the back of my head. No, you mentioned I hit my head. I think it gave me like some sort of like unfound amount of like confidence or something like that. And I will say I agree with that. Not the hitting your head thing, but you've definitely always been a very confident person. And I know sending ideas back and forth to you over the years, you've always just been like, just do this, just try it out. Spend a few $100s on ads and see what works, and then you'll know it's worth the investment to know that. And so, I love to know, like, you just mentioned that you figured out that like writing has been like your best avenue for getting your point across. But what was either the thing that ticked over, or was it like a book or something that made you like decide like, hey, I'm going to create content around this? Most people go to work and they live their lives and they're not always thinking like, how do I get this out there? So what was like the turning point or the knob that ticked or whatever that made you say, I want to create content around this because this makes sense in what I'm trying to do?
It'd be tough for me to try to pick a particular moment because it feels cumulative. Right. It feels like there's been a lot of things that have built on like layers of paint that have kind of built to allow me to kind of have the perspective that I do now. But I would say, early on, I learned about Dave Ramsey through his book, Total Money Makeover. That was my introduction into like how someone could manage their money. And that sort of format was something that I was able to consume, like long form text. And then also I remember in school at a young age in English class, writing papers and writing poems and doing things like that. I always got good feedback from my teachers. And then when I would attempt to blog as a young kid, like when blogging's been around for a while, right? But for me, it came to my attention more when I was like around 13 or 14. I tried creating a blog and writing, and I had some feedback from that, and just a few people that saw it, they're like, hey, you're pretty good at this. All of those little moments, along with then finding Gary Vaynerchuk, honestly, I mean, I know that may be cliche to say, but I think hearing someone like that kind of break through, and this was back in 2016, maybe 2015 or 14, maybe 2016, when I first learned about him and his demeanor and how he talked. And it was just very new for me, coming from, we grew up in the same part of the world, like North Alabama, southern, very rural part of the world, very conservative. And so that was just a voice that I, speaking of Gary Vaynerchuk, just a voice I'd never really heard before. And hearing him talk about content, and then I guess with just the belief that I felt like I had something to say, kind of all just culminated into this momentum of trying to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I think that was about the same time. I probably didn't. Also, I don't think like saying Gary Vee is like people give him a hard time, but when you like really listen to when you listen to him and not just things that people have clipped, you're like, there's a lot of wisdom there. I think that's probably at the time that I think I discovered like Tim Ferriss and started and I think like one of the first interviews I listened to him was with Blake Mycoskie. Hopefully I said that correctly, but the owner of Tom's Shoes. And he was just talking about as a kid what he did for like work, and he was like, my dad wanted me to get a job and a 9-to-5 for minimum wage or whatever, and those kind of things like also changed the way I thought about a lot of things. And hearing that voice, like you said, that you've never heard, also encouraged me to do a lot of the things and think about the way that I do things as well. Like having that mindset around like, how can I create something that compounds in a way that will one day not require me to trade whatever that is directly for hours. I mean, I'm seeing it like compound now, just to be honest with everybody, like with this, I'm already seeing this show compound over only, 4 episodes into it. And even just like, finding where it makes the most sense to spend your time. Like I just, been more active on LinkedIn recently. I just had somebody reply to a comment about something that I said and asking if they could purchase like an email sequence, like playbook that I mentioned. And I'm just like, I don't even have that packaged up in any way. I'm just going to give it to them for free and just give me some feedback on it. And that'll be the thing. It's just, you mentioned like just going for it and just like doing it. And yeah, you're right. It's totally cumulative. Like you're not going to find the first thing you do is not always going to be a hit. Maybe it is, but like,
I was just thinking about like, the term cringe, like I've done so much cringy stuff on the internet, and if anyone that finds me here today goes and looks at stuff on my feed from years ago, right? I mean, I didn't, and maybe you can relate to this, maybe not. I didn't grow up necessarily like on the internet, like maybe a lot of people that are on the internet today did. Even our generation, like my wife had a computer in her room, and was on IM Messenger and like all that stuff at like 11 or 10 or something, like really young. And we had a family computer, and it was pretty like restrictive in a lot of ways. And I had a lot of interest in it, but just didn't have the access to those like environments, especially social media environments. My family was pretty restrictive on, couldn't create a MySpace. Facebook was only okay because our preacher was on Facebook, that sort of thing. So it was like, and that was like in, maybe 2014 or no, not 2014, maybe like 2012 or something, 2011. Yeah. So it's like, by that time, I don't know what the etiquette is. Sometimes it can be tough to just figure out like how to be on the internet and be authentic, but also be professional and try to meet people where they're at in terms of like how you're trying to present your ideas.
Yeah. So for you, that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I feel like I was like partially raised by the internet in some way, just because, I had the same like family computer and, this big like compact Pisario, but we didn't have high speed internet until I was in college. We had dial up, but I was just like on exploring things and learning about things and waiting 20 hours for a YouTube video to load so I could watch things like that. But like I was just always thought it was like really cool and interesting and things that were going on. And when we finally had high speed internet and I started spending more time on YouTube and I started like really seeing like vloggers or people doing stuff with their face on camera, like not creating skits, just doing something or talking to a camera, I was like, oh, that's like really cool. So that was like my awakening there. I want to do something one day where I'm just like standing in front of a camera and talking, and whether it's like a radio show or a video show, whatever it evolves into, I want to do something like that. And sometimes I forget that's not everybody's like thought process, because dude, I pitch videos to people all the time. I'm like, just record a video on your phone and put it on this landing page. Like it'll make it so much better, and the conversions will be different, and people will see that you're a real person and not just another software. So for you, like I'm interested in, have you had that connection where you're like, I want to start doing video, or do you think like video is like not an option for you? I mean, you're here now, obviously, like maybe this is your bridge, but I'm just wondering, like, is video the next part of your progression and making content about, cash flow and budgeting and all those things?
It has to be.
Yeah.
I've always found software interesting, so I'll start there. I loved Apple as a company. Like from a young kid, I just thought like an iPod was so cool. And then to have an iPod, you had to have iTunes. Well, our family computer was like a gateway, old piece of like something. I don't know what it was. Some gateway that ran like Windows 95. So I couldn't have iTunes. So it was like, I had to go to my grandmother's house and download iTunes because she had something that had an XP with Windows 2001 or whatever on it. I loved like going through the file menus and figuring that stuff out. And then because of that, I found myself being the one when we had to do projects in school to edit the videos. That's probably something you did as well. You have to make a video recording of some book that you're reading or some like creative thing that your English teacher asked you to do. So I was that person and I could just figure it out. And because of that, I found that I ended up just doing more of it. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that I like being in front of crowds. Like I like performing. I mean, I was in band growing up. Like I got in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people often with a bunch of other people, but still nonetheless, like some sort of performance. There's a performance component there. And I like that. And I realized that I'm good in those public speaking environments. And if there's a camera up, it doesn't really bother me one way or another. So I think with those maybe attributes or with those capabilities, there has to be a way that I can figure out how to make video content around this topic. And writing is a way for me to process a lot of these thoughts that I have and these ideas to a point to where it's refined so that I can then go and talk about it confidently in a conversation like this.
Yeah. So had you already thought about doing video before just now? I'm sure you have, but have you like seriously been like, I'm going to start doing this?
Some of it has been more on like from the angle of figuring out how to create videos like in like a reel form or some sort of like short YouTube short or reel or whatever, like that don't include me like having to stand up and put my hand in front of my face and record myself. Cause I don't really know. I've just not done a lot of that. So my perspective has been like, if I can figure out how to maybe edit videos, then there's that. But I also like the idea of what we're doing today, which is just like recording a long form conversation. Yeah. And or I've done speaking events as well, where I've gotten up and presented, like recording stuff like that, and then figuring out how to clip that later.
Well, I mean, me and you used to record our phone calls. And
I have a ton of them. Like there's so much out there that I know that can be used, and there's been a lot of cool stuff that you and I have talked about, but it's just part of it's a matter of just figuring out how to process it all.
Yeah, I would definitely say like I've been big on doing video stuff and I've tried different platforms and things like that. But then when you start getting into, and I'm bringing this up because I'm wanting like anybody that's listening who's sitting here thinking about how to make video, I want to give them like a bit of thought. But if you've got a 9 to 5 and you've got a family or you don't or whatever, you have things to do, like you've got a lot of things to do. And it's like sitting down to how long is it going to take me to make a video? How long, and then how long is it going to take me to edit it and write all these things? And it's, if you can break it down to making a video for an hour on one day or writing for an hour on one day, making a video for an hour another day, and then editing it, like it still adds up. But I would say what we're doing right here has been like one of the most like paradigm shifting ways that I've thought about creating content, because, I'll write stuff and put it up, and I've thought about putting videos on LinkedIn too. And I've got some that I've made like in the past. I'm like, I might could start throwing those up and start building back into that, but it's still like setting up a camera and talking and all that stuff. And Joseph, who was my first guest, he was like, just go live and just do a live show and talk for an hour. And then when you hang up, just don't do anything else with that. That's it. Hang up the call and go off. And then all you focus on is getting your next guest or getting your guest. And that's it. And then you show up the next week and just do the same thing and just talk, and that's it. And that's all you have to do for a while. Like you can do that for 6 months and build an incredible amount of like connections. And if you do one a week, that's how many hours of content do you have now? It was like the thing that really shifted my mind was like, you'll wait around for the right time to do something, or I'm not going to start a podcast until I have more people to listen when I start up, or I'm not going to start going live on LinkedIn or whatever until I have more people that are there to show up, or I'm not going to stream or do whatever I want to do until there are people there to actually enjoy it with me. And I've thought about that too, as well. Like in my free time, the little bit of free time I have, like I will try to like stream on Twitch, like playing like video games and stuff like that, because it's just like just something to turn my mind off from everything else. Yeah. And for so long I've been like, I'm not going to do that until somebody is there to talk with me, because otherwise, I'm doing a little bit extra and I'm streaming to some other places, but really I spend an hour a week to get on a phone call or get on a live stream and talk to somebody. And that's a ton of like content that's being created. Like from the clips that I could make from this, if I wanted to, I could make 7 clips. So I'm posting a video every single day from this. And then the next episode comes out and I've got 7 more. And it's like, it actually, the barrier to entry seems so much smaller when I really thought about just show up every week and do the same thing and like work on building a connection and not a community at first. And all those other things will compound. And it's just been incredibly like, I look forward to it because it's like, it's not a stressful thing to sit here and have to video and ask questions and edit it. I'm just thinking I'm just going to talk to some friends for an hour. And then when we get off the call, like I'm not going to think about it until the next week, like I can kind of, but I put the content out there and I've got this live video that is now up and going. And so.
And you built some momentum. That's the thing. Like a part of it, I think what your friend was like really speaking to was just the momentum part, right? Like you just got to start and you got to keep doing that one thing. And then once you've got a pile of stuff to work with, then you'll know it'll be more clear what to do with it then when there's more of it. And that's something that I've realized that I have a lot of content. Like you said, we've recorded it. There's probably hours of conversations that you and I have had that can be used in some form or fashion. And an exercise I'm going through right now is just figuring out where all that stuff is and organizing it. And saying like what is all out there, because I've gotten like even right now, like I have this little voice recorder that's going in the background. I'm sure you're happy to give me this audio and video, but I'll have it too. And if anything is a reference point to know we had this conversation. And I just find that really interesting, that idea of capture.
Yeah, you've had that that voice recorder for a long time. That's been like I don't know, maybe like a cornerstone in like your content strategy without calling it a content strategy. If I've got this recording here so I can always have ideas. And I wish the voice recorder is awesome. I do similar with like notes and stuff where I just like, sometimes when I'm out and I'm not thinking is when I have like a really good idea about something. And that's like the kicker for just the compounding momentum.
And sometimes that for people doesn't have to be video. It doesn't have to be a form like this. It can be writing. It can be drawing. It can be performing, right? Maybe if you're someone that wants to get on stage, you got to go find some place to get on stage regularly. If you're a writer, you've got to find that moment every day or once a week or however frequent you can start doing it to write and to just get just to capture your thoughts or capture your ideas. If you're an artist and you like to draw or paint or create crafts, whatever that is, you've got to find that time to capture that stuff to figure out what's even there. And that's just been, and I'm speaking to myself more than anything, because that's been such an eye-opening idea for me as someone that does want to like share what I know and believe that I have something to share. You've got to put in the work to capture that, to figure out what it even is that you're trying to, like, what are you even trying to say, right? What are you trying to tell?
It could be faceless. You could have an AI narrator do it for you, or you can narrate it yourself, but it's still your words that you're putting out and your knowledge you're putting out, or it's the art, or it's the craft, or it's the performing or the dancing, whatever. Like, just find a place to capture what you're wanting to do in whatever avenue and just do it. Or
you could use the word express. You could use the word emote, like what everything is. We've all got something in us that we want to share. We've all got a unique story. We've all got a unique perspective, and everyone, is going to come to that in their own way. But to be able to, live, I think a big part of being a human is expressing, it is sharing. And somehow you've got to find that for yourself in this world that we live in, with the internet and with video recording capabilities and audio and whatever else. So there's like forms of media exist. I don't know. I think we've all got a story to share. And if you believe that you do have one to share, you got to figure out a way to capture that or express that.
Yeah, because then it just becomes like almost like a burden of self if you can't express yourself in some way.
It can be frustrating. Yeah, it's been frustrating for me. The way I talk automatically gets like, I get underestimated. I get understated because like of just the way that I sound when I speak, because there's a stereotype with people that sound the way I do and
the way we do.
The way we do. Yeah, exactly. I don't even hear it, but I know that I've got it. And it's just, it's frustrating at times, but I've realized that I have to be better at communicating. Yeah. If I'm not going to change the way I talk, but what I can do is change the words that I use, and I can change the expressions and the emotions that I bring to those words and be able to articulate those in a way that actually communicate the ideas that I have.
Yeah. It is as hard as I've tried to eliminate the accent. It never fully goes away. I don't think
It's underrated. I think, I think the whole South is underrated. But that's just me. I'm a little partial.
Yeah, I got one more quick question, and
Yeah.
maybe it won't open to too many like avenues, but just kind of interested in your thought. You mentioned this, but how do you balance volume and authenticity? Because when it comes to creating content, it's like you're supposed to be authentic, but also you've got to pump out content 3 times a day or whatever. So how have you found like balancing those two, and even the authenticity of just talking with your natural accent?
I'm still figuring that out. I think it's a process. Like depending on where you're at in life, dictates like what you have the capacity to do. For me, it's a matter of just trying to first capture and then process at whatever pace that I can actually manage.
Yeah.
That isn't going to burn me out. Like you have to respect yourself at the end of the day. Yes, of course we have a story to tell. Like we want to share with the world what we believe and our opinions and everything else, but also you got to eat, you got to take care of your family, you got to mow your grass and keep your house clean and do all the take care of yourself. Yeah. And so like those things take time too. So you can really only do as much as you can do. And so whatever time you do have, like you got to be intentional. You got to be strategic. Like you said, I'm going to record on Monday. I'm going to process on Tuesday. I'm going to edit on Wednesday. I'm going to clip on Thursday and post on Friday. And if you only got 7 minutes a day to do that, hey, if you only got 7 minutes a day, you got to figure out how to make it work. And the discipline of doing that, right? I'm going to spend 12 minutes every morning doing this thing, no matter what. And I'm going to show back up again tomorrow and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to keep figuring it out. And that's all you can really do. And then the output's going to be the output.
That's true. Yeah. And that's, even if it is 7 minutes a day, like that's better than having not done anything at all. You know,
it's better than living with the resentment and frustration.
Yeah. I mean, 15 minutes at the end of the day you can almost, if you've got some thoughts going through, you can write a LinkedIn post in 15 minutes. Maybe you don't have the time to go and follow a bunch of people or whatever, but you can sit down and write a post. And then after a week of writing a post, you can 30 minutes on Saturday morning maybe and turn that into a blog and have that.
I'll take that a step back even further. Go to your phone. Make a note in your phone every day. Like you spend 7 minutes just expressing.
Yeah.
Whatever, if it's a note in your phone, if it's a sticky note that you draw on, like if you're an artist or if you're a performer or whatever, like it just goes back to whatever that form of expression is. If you're like at completely zero, there has to be an effort to capture or express that thing. And then once you have enough of that, like you're a little bit further along. You've done this enough. Okay, I got to get in front of a camera. I got to start talking to people. I got to connect, and then I'll figure the rest of it out later. But other people may be in a position where they may be scared to post on LinkedIn. They may be scared to put a TikTok up. Yep. You just record it for yourself, right? At the end of the day, it's got to be for you anyways.
Right.
And so if that means you got to keep it on your phone for a little while, and then maybe in 3 weeks, go back and see what you've got to work with, then it may be more clear what you need to do from there.
I love that you mentioned that. I just wanted to share this real quick because I know you're a big list maker, and you just mentioned going back to a list 5 weeks later or whatever. I've got this notebook where I've got my catch-all list here where I just write absolutely everything that I need to think about, and then when I'm processing it, it goes into my actual notebook here of things that I need to do. But that's it. Whatever the process is, I think that's. Sometimes we put things on a list, and if we don't do it that day, did I lose it? Did it become something that I'm no longer going to do? But I just went and started marking things off and making new notes because I did accomplish those things eventually. They just sat here in this list that doesn't have any purpose other than to just catch my thoughts, the capture of those things, and then I've processed that either through my day-to-day or whatever. And I think, finding some way to capture either a voice note or notes in your phone or a physical notebook is, time to do that is incredibly helpful.
You could also, that we started with that Hormozi quote, capture once, repurpose relentlessly. You could also say capture, refine relentlessly, right? It's like you might write a blog, you might make a clip today of a certain part of this conversation that you want to post right now. And in 3 years, you come back to this mountain of content and you're like, actually, I've got a new perspective on that. Actually, there's a different frame there that I saw. Then you can refine it then. I do this with my notes. And part of it's kind of being kind to yourself and saying, hey, I'm going to express what I can about this idea, and then I'm going to leave it. And then maybe tomorrow or next week when I'm going through things and I'm trying to refine that idea again, I'll edit it a little bit more. Maybe I'll just take another pass at it or try to take it with a new perspective and see what comes out of it. And eventually, you do that 15, 30, 50 times, you're going to have something pretty good at the end of that. So I don't know. There's that idea of just, there's the capture, but there's also the refinement or the processing of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be afraid to reuse something, change your perspective on it, update the way you feel about it. I'm going on the Scrappy ABM podcast in June sometime. And what Mason wanted me to do was like, hey, go back and listen to your first ever episode where you were on the Scrappy ABM podcast and come back to be about what has changed and what is the same. Like, what are your new perspectives now that you've been working in this process for a year? What does it look like?
It's communicating stuff. And it's something we can all get better at.
Yeah, totally agree.
It's everything though too, right? It's everything. Yeah. It's everything. Like I think about like cash flow and cash management when in a business context, or like in terms of just what you're able to do as a business, or even what you're able to do personally. Like you can't eat unless you got money, right? Or unless you steal, I guess. But you gotta, if you want to live somewhere, you got to pay your rent or you got to pay your mortgage. And so a lot of what we do is driven by our financial situation and how much money we have. Yeah. And so I think the same thing with just like how we interact as humans is obviously through communication. And so it's everything. So the better you can get at communicating, the better you can get at managing your cash. Like, there's going to be fruit from that labor.
And, to be honest, I mean, this is kind of a silly analogy, but we already kind of do that naturally. I think we have conversations during the day. And I think if you're a normal person, you probably rethink about those conversations in the shower before you're going to bed, and you relive and you refine those moments. And you're like, how could I handle that differently next time? And that's just take that same process to everything else you do. Like just because I write a piece of content and put it out there doesn't mean it lives forever. And that way I can change it. I can have a shower thought and argue with myself about the way I said it or the way I didn't say it. So I think, that's immediately I thought about. We already do that naturally, I'm sure. And we just need to apply that to content or to our budget or money situation or whatever that may be.
Yeah, you just got to keep coming back to it. And I think that the unfortunate thing about shower thoughts is that they're lost forever. Yeah. You can't go back and really look at that conversation you had with yourself to see what really came out of it. But with the notes on your phone or with the art that you draw or the recordings that you make, you can go back to those and you can see, oh, that's what I was trying to say, or, oh, that's where I messed that thing up. And then you can more easily refine it. And that's just going to make the next conversation or the next recording or the next piece of art even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this has been awesome. This has been a really great conversation, Chris. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat.
Thank you for asking me, man. This is fun. I love just hanging out on these things. I think it's cool, like seeing people that I know do these sorts of things.
Chris, thank you so much for being here. You mentioned people go find you on LinkedIn. It did not let me tag you in that though. I don't know what the issue was with that, but we'll correct that and I'll tag you in this so people can come and find you on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Just find me on LinkedIn. Chris Brown, Travada.io. You just look for the guy with the bald head and glasses and beard.
There's only one or two out there, so it should be pretty. Well, cool. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching this next episode of the Content Crowd. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.